Morning. I want to thank you for spending the morning with us and learning how to grow your business. I'm Olivia Rios, Director of Operations and Programs at the LA Latino Chamber, and we have an exciting program for you today. Just a reminder that these types of webinars and training sessions are key to your business success. And by taking the time to be with us, you show your commitment to scale and grow your business. I'd like to thank US Bank for their continuous support. In today's webinar, Unlock Small Business Resources, we have three banking and financial experts with us. Today, our first speaker is Lisbeth DeBroy, Business Advisor, Francisco Cruz with Accessity, Business Development Manager, and Eddie Reyes, Vice President, Relationship Manager at US Bank and the Chamber's banker. So at this point, I'd like to introduce Lisbeth, who will also introduce her colleague. So Lisbeth, thank you and welcome back. I know you were on maternity leave and you have a little young baby. So we want to welcome you back to real life and take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Olivia. And thank you, Los Angeles Latino Chamber, for having US Bank and I represent today. During my presentation, I do have our expert in lending, Eddie Reyes. He is with US Bank. He's our relationship manager. So if you have any questions that come up towards the end, please feel free to ask. He will be more than happy to share about our lending process at US Bank. In addition to him, I also have a really close organization that US Bank partners with that we're going to go ahead and share a little bit more about how we partner with them and the great services that Accessity offers. But with me today is Francisco Cruz, and you will also hear about him during the presentation and Accessity. So for now, I will go ahead and start by sharing my screen. Today, the topic that we'd like to cover, because it's Small Business Month, as if you're not aware, a big topic that usually comes up is business credit. And as simple as that sounds, it's also a very complicated topic. So I'm going to share a little bit of insight of how business credit impacts business owners, how to obtain business credit, what types of credit companies we utilize to ensure that you are for us to be able to lend to you. And I'm also going to discuss alternative financing options. So the larger banks like US Bank and other competitors, we're considered traditional banks. And sometimes traditional banks do have some lending or credit criteria that need to be met in order for the bank to be able to lend to a business owner. And sometimes you may feel, if you're in need of credit and you go to a traditional bank and you get turned down, a lot of the times you may feel a little discouraged. I am here to tell you today that we have some lenders out there available for business owners that may be able to lend on more flexible criteria than traditional banks are. So we'll go ahead and get started. As Olivia mentioned, my name is Lisbeth DeBroy. My role at US Bank is a business access advisor. And a lot of you may ask, what do I do? My goal is to ensure that business owners are provided all of the resources that they need in order to thrive, grow, and scale their business. And that can simply be sometimes by providing financial education or just connecting you to the right partners, whether that's through US Bank or externally. Another great resource that I'm able to offer you all as a business owner, if you are all right now taking this call, I encourage you to scan this QR code. US Bank released our Business Resource Central. It is a great tool. You do not have to be a customer of US Banks. It does require registration. There is no fee to utilize this. It is free education for you as a business owner that you can take at the comfort of your own home. And nobody is tracking you. So these are some of the great topics that you can learn about. The trainings are about 20 minutes long. It does really make you sit down and think about your business, where you would like to grow your business and some areas of focus. Right now, a big topic of conversation, and I know Olivia at the end will share a procurement opportunity event for you all to attend. But if you are considering attending something like that, we do have a training on growth strategies and procurement. So it does cover how to secure contracts with large buyers, how to successfully pitch your business to anyone. So a lot of organizations sometimes have grant opportunities or pitch contests. This would be a great training for you to take if you are interested in something like that, or even something as simple as understanding what your business financial health is. Doesn't matter what type of business you are, at what stage of business. You can be a startup, you can be a well-established corporation that's been in business for many years. Sometimes it's great to just take a moment and step back and kind of just see where your business is going and where you are currently. So the agenda for today, what we're going to cover is understanding different credit types, business credit reporting, your credit worthiness, and business credit options. So I do want to remind you, at the end of this presentation, we will go ahead and open it up for Q&A. So if you do have questions for me, please go ahead and write those down, or you can add them to the chat and we will go ahead and cover them towards the end. So first of all, let's understand some credit types and the impact of your personal credit on your business credit. So why is credit and credit reporting important to your business? So a lot of the times when a business owner is applying for financing, they don't realize that we do take into account their personal credit. I do want to emphasize, if there are multiple owners of the business, if you own more than 20% of the business, chances are your credit is going to be pooled for an application. And the reason why we do that is to ensure behind every business, there is an individual that is responsible for physically having to make those payments. Especially a startup business, there's really not much we can take into account when you're, just getting started with your business and you have no business credit. We need to ensure that the individual that is the owner of this business is responsible enough to repay that loan or line of credit. So your credit history helps us determine and decide whether to extend financing to you. And it also allows us to effectively manage debts and obligations. So what we recommend is we take into account your personal credit to ensure that you're actually paying your debt in a timely manner. We want to ensure that you're not late on your payments, whether they're personal. It does tell us a lot about your character and how you utilize your credit. And it also helps you build your credit history. So what is a personal credit score? Many of you may know what is a good credit score, what is an excellent credit score. But in simple terms, it's a number that helps lenders determine your credit risk. Usually we refer to it as a FICO score. There's also a Vantage score available, and many lenders also create their own credit scores for evaluating their own customers. So you may consider, well, what do they take into account? U.S. Bank, for instance, we're a financial institution. We do have a relationship score that we score our own business customers on. And basically what takes into account is if you were ever overdrawn on your checking account, and how often you allow your balances to drop below zero. So not necessarily, if you're hit with an overdraft fee, but really how you manage your account balances in your business account do take into account when we are applying you for credit. So what are the business credit reporting? So let's understand the impact of business credit reporting. So your personal credit, usually what is contained in your personal credit report is your personal identifying information, such as your social security number, your credit history, how long you've had, your credit, how long your credit has been established for, but also what types of credit you have out there. So, do you just have credit cards, or is there a mixture of credit cards, loans, and maybe a mortgage on there? So you want to have a well-versed credit report. How many inquiries you've had. Normally, I would recommend, if you can manage below 2 inquiries, I would say for about 2 to 3 years, that is great. Every time you run your credit, it is an inquiry on your report, and sometimes it could impact the credit decision, even if you have a high FICO score. If we notice that you've been running your credit, it does start to seem like you are very desperate for that loan or line of credit, and it could raise some concern to the lender. So what my recommendation is, before you run your credit at U.S. Bank, what we definitely like to do with our business clients is really take into consideration what they are applying for. We do a full analysis of their cash flow to ensure that the product that they are applying for, they are in the best position financially for. So before we run your credit, we have to do a little bit of homework with you. We'll gather as much information that you can provide as far as what are you using this loan for? What is your business income? What is your gross sales, your net income? We want to ensure you can tell us a story about your personal credit as well as your business credit before we actually do that inquiry. And I will tell you that any company, any financial institution that really values you as a client should be able to do that prior to running your credit. And then any public record information. So that could be, and this is very surprising to some, but if you ever defaulted on a utility bill, that can be listed on your credit report, and that is considered public record information. Or if you've had an account go into collections or filed a bankruptcy. On your business credit report, it's very similar, but it's now pertaining to the business side. So it'll be the business identifying information, which is the EIN number, your business credit history, business background registration and financial information, and also your public record information. Something I do want to add on here is if you defaulted with one of your suppliers, say, sometimes your suppliers could offer their own financing options. If you ever default on a payment with them, that could actually impact your credit. So we want to ensure that, anything that you owe for your business or even personally is always paid on time. And if you cannot keep up with those obligations, work with the company. Most of the time, they'll be able to work with you and set up some type of payment arrangements to ensure that you're not late and your credit is impacted. So the most important information, what does a business credit report even contain? So as I mentioned, business identifying information, this is going to be your business names and any alliances that are associated with your business, your business address, your DUNS number, and your industry classification code. The industry classification code is extremely important, especially when you are applying for business lending. You want to ensure that your bank has the right, we call NAICS code. It's really your industry code. It specifies exactly what your business does, what type of industry you are in. The reason I emphasize, if I was a business owner and if I was opening up a business account at a financial institution, I would provide that to my banker. The bankers are able to search it and go ahead and input it based on the information that you provide to them at account opening. But say that they list your business identification code incorrectly and you're trucking industry, you're in the trucking industry, but they don't specify exactly what type of trucking you do, that can really significantly impact the credit decision. So go on NICS and search exactly what your industry type is and make sure that your banking institution has the right code, especially before you submit an application for lending. Your business credit history is going to be companies that have granted credit will appear on here. Your payment data from suppliers, as I mentioned, and creditors, and your risk scores and rating. So a lot of the history of, how you have how you've managed your credit on the business side in the past. Business background registration and financial information is going to include your registration and incorporation data, your legal structure and ownership, the history of business, any affiliations you may have, corporate financial reports, and then your contracts, any grants, loans from the federal government, and self-reported data. Your public information, this is going to be any lawsuits, liens, and judgments. So as I mentioned, any accounts that you have in collections. Your business registrations with the state, city, county courts. You want to ensure that your state registration is filed and up to date on the Secretary of State website. And incorporation and current and past bankruptcy filings from state and county courts. So who are the major players in business reporting? So Dun & Bradstreet focuses on how your business interacts with vendors and suppliers. So as I mentioned, if you are on a payment arrangement with a supplier or you are on a financing term with them, just ensure you're keeping up with those payments. If it's becoming hard because you're a seasonal business to keep up with the payments, speak to the suppliers and see if they can work around some payment arrangements for you. I know at US Bank, through our equipment financing, we do offer great payment arrangements. So if you're a seasonal company, we can always have repayment terms that are seasonal, quarterly. So we as long as you share that information at while we're taking that application, we can ensure that we manage your loan that way once you get approved. So that is why I say just be transparent with your banker, be realistic. Hey, this is what my business is making, but in reality, this is what I'm comfortable with paying monthly, especially if you're a seasonal business. Equifax focuses on how your business has managed business lines of credit and loans. And then Experian Business focuses on credit information from both lenders and business vendors. So checking your business credit report. A lot of you may ask, how do I gather this information? You can apply and pay for your business credit report from one of the main credit agencies. Each agency has their own fee, but if you have never done so, it's worth paying the fee and really taking a deep dive into your credit reporting. It doesn't impact you to request it, doesn't bring down any credit points to view your credit if you go through one of those agencies. You can also use an alternative credit service to access a free business credit report. With that, I would say it's not always accurate. So it is good to manage and take a view, to be able to manage it and take a look at it that way. It's good to make sure that you're keeping up, but not until you actually fully pull the report, you're going to be able to see what is actually listed on there. So a lot of you may ask, why should I even establish business credit? So in simple terms, lenders, we look at credit to help determine approval in terms of financing. So if you want to have, like I mentioned, more flexible repayment terms, we take a look at your credit to ensure that we can trust that, if it's a seasonal payment that you're going to be making towards this loan, we want to ensure that you're a trustworthy individual that is going to keep their word on making those payments. Suppliers and shipping companies will look to decide whether to grant a deferral of payment for goods and services. So sometimes, they may be able to say, hey, here we can offer you, the supplies that you need. And we understand that you don't get paid until, net 30, net 60, net 90. So we are going to trust that in 30 days, you're going to be able to repay or make a payment towards that loan. Your own customers, believe it or not, they could take a look in your credit to determine if your company is a legal entity and it has a good reputation. Insurance companies take a look at that to help determine the price of your insurance policies, which is really important right now because if you are in California, I'm sure you're being impacted with the insurance increase that we're all experiencing, whether that's in your home insurance, your business insurance. It's happening everywhere. And also for procurement officers. So we utilize that information to help evaluate your ability to execute government contracts. So credit does also support business growth and sustainability. So it does provide you access to financing. It helps you acquire or manufacture inventory. It helps you purchase necessary equipment and materials and helps you manage working capital. So how do you even start? Where do you establish business credit? So first, if you do not have an EIN number, which is your employer identification number, you can get a copy of your EIN. And if you don't have one already, I'm sure most businesses should, but if you don't have one, we can help you obtain one. It's very easy. So you can always reach out to us directly. Business credit report. So verify whether you already have one. And that's utilizing your business EIN number. You can go on to Experian Business or Experian or Dun & Bradstreet to figure out if you already have a business credit already established and what is appearing on there. And businesses, lenders reporting your credit information. Ask lenders, suppliers to report information about you. So you can, if you are already working with a supplier and you want to know if they are reporting to the credit agencies, you could simply ask them if they do report, and self-report financial and credit data as feasible. So when you do pull your credit report, if you notice that something isn't on there that should be, talk to the lender and figure out why it's not appearing on your credit. Especially if it's an account that's in good standing, you want to make sure that you have that to be able to tell your business credit history. So this is how we evaluate creditworthiness. And this slide may look very familiar to many of you, but this is very familiar to both personal and business. So what are the 5 C's of credit? In financial institutions, we utilize this term so much, but it's really, it tells us, it's really how we determine if you are somebody that's, what is your credit worthiness? So are you somebody that the bank can trust to lend to? So it helps us determine your capacity. That means how much can we lend to you and how much can you repay back? Your collateral. So if you are coming to us for a loan, we want to know, what are you utilizing that loan for? Are you purchasing equipment, or are you just simply utilizing it for, general business cash flow? But tell us a story. Hey, I need this line of credit because I'm thinking about expanding my business. I'm thinking about hiring and onboarding a new employee, and it's going to cost me this much. Or simply, I'm thinking about remodeling my location. Your credit history, which is the largest, if you notice, the largest criteria that we really take a look at. What condition your credit report is in. So, how are you making and managing those payments that are appearing on there? And what is your character? I think for character, what really falls into play here is, have you ever been late on your payments? How late have you been? And how frequently has that happened? If it happened one time, and a lot of people don't know this, but a late payment on your credit report means that you forgot to make a payment and you went past the 30-day mark. So being 5 days late on the payment due date might not impact your credit report, but it's good to speak to the lender to ask. But normally, if it's anything that's 30 days or more late, is really what will impact your credit. If it's a one-time thing, talk to the lender. There may be a way that they can remove that reporting off of your credit. We do work with an organization that's partnered with US Bank called Operation Hope. And a lot of the time, sometimes it's just managing and talking to the company. So we actually have a great resource. They're coaches that can write dispute letters on your behalf and send them to the companies in hopes that they can remove that late off of your credit, especially if it's impacting a new application that you recently submitted. So definitely connect with me if you do fall into that category, and I'll be happy to make that connection with Operation Hope. And what is the non-traditional data that could appear on your credit report? So on the personal credit side, this could be any utility bills that you've been past due on or defaulted in. Believe it or not, your telephone provider. So if you had a Verizon phone and you decided, hey, I'm not going to pay it anymore, I'm moving over to AT&T, it's not going to affect me. They'll just keep billing me, and collections will be calling me. No big deal. I won't respond. It's not going to affect me. It actually does impact your credit report. So make sure that you have no outstanding or broken contracts with any organizations out there. And rental data. So if you are a tenant somewhere, ensure that you're speaking with your landlord. If you weren't able to make, 1 month's rent or the last month's rent, whatever that may be, that could actually be reported to your credit report and impact you in the long run. And business credit reporting examples could be online business reviews could take into effect for this, shipment volume, e-commerce trade, and merchant account transactions as well. So what is a good business credit score? So factors that impact your business credit score is very much like personal. So how long have you been in business when you are submitting this lending application? Normally, traditional banks like to look at 2 years. You're going to hear from Francisco at Accessity. They may have different time and business requirements depending on the amount that you're requesting to borrow. What is your payment history? So, we want to ensure that you're making your payments on time. Your credit mix. So I talked a little bit about this. We want to ensure that if you are requesting a loan, that you've had some type of loan in the past for us to be able to reflect or take a look at to see the history on that loan. A lot of the times we may come across business customers that have nothing but credit cards and never acquired a loan before, and come in and, hey, I want to borrow 100,000 and I have good credit, but they only have credit cards. We can't really take into account how their loan history has been managed because they've never had a loan. So realistically, is 100,000 an amount we may be able to loan them? Depending, right? If they're purchasing equipment, maybe, but if it's just an unsecured loan, meaning that they're just asking for this money to do different types of things with their business, we need to be able to look at a loan, loan history, to be able to determine, okay, the bank will trust you to loan you these 100,000 because we've seen that in the past you've been able to manage and pay off a $50,000 loan. And then your credit utilization ratio. A lot of the times people may ask, well, what should that be? Our recommendation is try to keep that utilization record under a 30%. So what is a utilization? What does that mean? That means that if you have a credit card and the limit on it is $1,000, you don't want to exceed that balance of $300. And if you do, when that statement comes in, you want to ensure that you pay it off in full. The banks or financial institutions, when you apply for credit, if we see your utilization ratio is high, that just means that you're really depending on those credit cards to be able to manage your business or personal. So we want to ensure that you're managing it at a low ratio, so you're responsibly using those credit cards and you're also paying them off. And any mistakes on your credit report, that is why it's extremely important to ensure that you're always managing your credit report, because sometimes, believe it or not, lenders could make mistakes. They may mark you late on a payment when in reality you weren't late. It's not often that happens. Personally, I've never heard of it happening to a client, but you'd be surprised. So just ensure that you're managing your credit reporting. So now we're going to talk about some business credit options. So as I discussed, U.S. Bank is considered a traditional lending financial institution. So with me today, there's other resources as well that you can utilize for funding. So there's the SBA. U.S. Bank also offers SBA lending. There's local government small business loans. There's grant opportunities as well. And then, of course, the alternative funding, through friends and family. There's fintechs, there's crowdfunding, there's venture capital and angel investors and incubator or accelerator programs. With me today, I am going to introduce a partner of ours. He is with Accessity, which is considered a community development financial institution. And Francisco, I will go ahead and let you take it from here.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. U.S. Bank, LA Latino Chamber of Commerce as well. We appreciate the opportunity to join this Zoom meeting and just to share with you all as business owners more information about Accessity. And as Elizabeth mentioned, an alternative lending opportunity for you as a small business. So Accessity, today, just a quick presentation. We're going to go over the loan programs that we offer. Accessity. So our mission is to provide open doors of financial opportunity, primarily of those historically with less access to capital, such as the entrepreneurs of color, women, immigrants, LMI, and Accessity, as Elizabeth mentioned, is a community development financial institution known as a CDFI. Accessity has been operating since 1994. We have disbursed now over $1 million in funding, and we service the following counties, which is San Diego, LA, Orange, Imperial, Riverside, San Bernardino, and recently Santa Barbara and Ventura County. So just to share with you all, so Accessity is, just so you have a better understanding of what a CDFI is. So our mission is to provide capital to the underserved community as an alternative lender. So if you are a startup business that at the moment do not meet the requirements of traditional lending, for example, at US Bank, because maybe you're under business for under 2 years, then that's where we can kind of come into play and be a stepping stone for you as a business owner. So with Accessity, we actually do provide capital for a startup business that is pre-revenue. So if you have a business idea, but you just need the capital to get the business rolling, Accessity can actually provide you some capital. I do just want to point out one of the major requirements that we do have for startup businesses is that you must have a stable source of income. And the reason behind that, we just want to make sure you have the capacity to repay back the loan, especially as a startup. As you know, it's considered a high risk. Again, we can also provide capital for existing businesses that maybe, again, don't meet the traditional two years in business. So maybe you've been operating for 1 year and you cannot qualify for traditional lending. That's with our organization kind of comes in and it's able to provide some capital. If you're transitioning from a sole prop to an LLC or to a corporation, that's something we can also provide. And actually, we can look at your credit, your business history as you first initially started. If you have new credits, that's something we can consider as long as it's no recent late payments that you're currently current on all of your obligations. We can consider you for some capital. So with Accessity, we can also provide capital for high-risk industries such as retail, food and beverage, and transportation. So if, again, you don't meet the traditional requirements, Accessity and other CDFIs are available for you as an additional resource. And the type of purposes that we can provide capital for you as a business owner, they range from a business acquisition, expansion, startup, equipment financing, hiring employees, inventory marketing, any tenant improvements, and like I mentioned, either startup capital or working capital for an existing business. Quick overview on the products that we offer. So Accessity does provide capital from as low as $300 now up to $250,000 in capital. Again, this applies either towards a startup or an existing business here in Southern California. So the rates that we offer, they range from an 8.99 to 14.99 with Accessity. That's a simple rate. It's a fixed rate. There's no prepayment penalties. And as Lisbeth mentioned in her presentation, when you are applying for capital, either if you are a startup or an existing business, we do look at the personal credit. So Accessity also does run personal credit. But one of the reasons that we've been able to partner and create this partnership with US Bank is because Accessity actually only does a soft pull on the personal credit, because we understand the importance of not dinging your credit as you're shopping around and trying to access capital. So that is one of the major reasons that Accessity has recently changed only to providing doing a soft credit pull on your credit, which is beneficial for you as a business owner. Again, we have no prepayment penalties. Our approval ranges from 2 to 4 weeks. We have different loan programs. If you're looking to get capital under 25,000, less documentation required. Anything over 25, it's a full documentation. And as Lisbeth mentioned, so we do look at the 5 C's of credit. So as you can see, even if you're looking for traditional financing or you're looking for an alternative as a CDFI, we are definitely going to be looking at the personal credit. So definitely take that into consideration of the 5 C's. And then the terms with Accessity, we do offer up to 6.5 years. Closing costs, that's about 6%. That's financed into the loan. And believe that's just a quick just information about Accessity, who we are, and the partnership that we have with US Bank. So again, Lisbeth, Eddie, Olivia, thank you very much for the opportunity. And we'll stick around if there's any additional questions.
Thank you both. Eddie, do you have some information to share with us?
Yes, I do. So thanks, Lisbeth. Appreciate all the great information. The only thing I would add to that is we have done some really great webinars around the SBA 7A and 504 programs. So reach out to the chamber. I think it was late January. We did one on the 504, which is an SBA program to purchase commercial real estate. And then we did one May 15th, I think, on the 7A program, which is an all-in-one product to use for various financing needs. So if you don't, I believe they're on the Chamber's website, so you can go there to get those resources. If not, just drop us a chat and we'll send you the links for those as well. But yeah, that's all I guys had. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to go through the questions real quickly. Let's see. I think you've answered them. Someone said, do you also report on the personal credit if personal guarantee is in place for all business owners? And your response was, we do not report on personal credit reports for business credit cards or business loans. Another question, do C Corps in Delaware, but Los Angeles headquarter qualifies?
Yeah, so I could expand on that. So we primarily look at where the business operates, right? So I have companies that incorporate all over the U.S., but at the end of the day, it's where you do business. For U.S. Bank, the business has to be within 50 miles of a banking center or branch or bank presence. So as long as you fit that criteria, we can lend across the entire country. For the most part, we're a super regional bank, so we can do everywhere except I think we don't have a presence in Florida and in Georgia. But other than that, we're pretty we're there pretty much across the board. So it can lend anywhere.
Another question, does Accessity lend to ITIN business owners?
Yes, Accessity actually does lend to I-10 business owners, either for working capital or for any equipment financing.
Okay. And then I have a couple questions. You mentioned that you don't get a credit report, but there is the source where you can get it for free once a year. Lizbeth, can you share where folks can get their free credit report?
So on the personal side, you can go through annualcreditreport.com. And I'll add that to the chat as well. On the business, you can through Experian Business, Experian, and Eddie, correct me if I'm wrong, but through Dun & Bradstreet as well. I would recommend if you're going to pay for it, Experian Business is probably going to be the best resource to go through.
Perfect. And this is a question for all three of you. Can you share the reasons why an EIN number is important when having a business versus using their Social Security to apply for credits or loans?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, you're just trying to establish credit for the business itself, right? It's really important to do so, right? Obviously, there's some protections in place with doing an S corp or corporation or things like that as well, right? But at the end of the day, it's super important. Depending on what your goals are, right? You might want to make sure there's a differentiator between the company and you as an individual as well. So, but very important.
Yeah, but can you do a deeper dive? Because there's been cases where, you could have perfect personal credit, like an 800, right? But somehow the business was not successful and you got into debt because of the businesses. So the credit or whatever wasn't successful will stay with the business and not be attached to your personal.
I mean,
Is that how it would work?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of information follows you, right, across the board. So, I mean, I've had clients have had, companies and have closed those companies and opened up new ones. I think that's what you're asking, open up new ones, but that all follows you, right? So I think the best thing to do is what we talked about earlier is just have a transparency with your banker, right? And let them know that you've had history with certain companies and they closed down and whatever happened, because that really allows the banker to position or tell a better story of your business to an underwriter at the end of the day, right? So I think it's all about transparency and making sure you're really clear about kind of any potential pitfalls, right? Because we're in this together. So I think any potential pitfalls that we know up front will absolutely help us tell a better story for our business owners.
Yeah. Can you take a deeper, and here's another question. Can you take a deeper dive on liens? There's misinformation on liens on what people should know, because sometimes they think that it's just, something that's attached, but it has repercussions down the line, both for your business and personally.
Yeah, so the one that I encounter a lot, I'll talk about UCC filings first, and then just some like tax lien and things like that, because it's all kind of together, right? So at the end of the day, most banks like to be in the first filing, they have the first UCC filing, right? So a lot of lenders or banks, what they'll do is they'll place a UCC filing on the business, right? And that basically, lets other banks know that there's a loan against it, right? At the end of the day, we'll place our lien on there to protect the bank. And I just had a line of credit that I just did for a client just recently, and one of the things was we had to remove the UCC filing so we'd be in first position. So I mean, I think it's important for you to be aware, right? Because she didn't even know that there was actually a bank that placed a lien on their business, right? That's all disclosed and as part of your paperwork when you sign up for a loan. And then you can obviously go to Secretary of State as well. It's a great resource. You can actually go on to Secretary of State. There's a section for UCC filings. You punch in your business name, and you'll know if there's any business liens or UCC filings attached to it. So that's one side of it, right? The other side of it, kind of similar to that, is we've come across situations where there's tax liens or credit liens or things like that. Obviously, it's very important for you to be aware of that, right? Most banks will ask you to pay those off before they'll lend. I'm sure there's other alternative lenders that it might not be as important to them, but at least for the larger banks, you definitely need to pay those off for sure.
You talked about Operation Hope, Elizabeth, as a credit resources where they could kind of help you clean up your credit. So is there a fee that's attached to utilizing Operation Hope, or is that a free resource?
It's a completely free resource. So just to share a little bit about Operation Hope. So Operation Hope is an organization that is partnered, as I mentioned, with US Bank. We actually have a few coaches that sit at our US Bank locations. It's completely free. They don't charge you absolutely anything. You do not have to be a US Bank client. What they'll do is a soft pull on your credit, and this is mostly on the personal. So if personal credit is impacting business decisions, we work with Operation Hope to pull your credit report, and they do a full analysis to see what is impacting. Sometimes it may be, coaching on budgeting, right? They'll let you know, like, hey, you're just, you're not keeping up with your payments. But a lot of the times what I've worked with them for is, say if I have a business owner that is applying for credit and they get turned down because they have a late on their personal and that's impacting the credit decision, they'll work with them on sending dispute letters to the companies on their behalf. The only thing I will add is it does take some work from you, the individual that's seeking the support, to work with Operation Hope. You can't expect them to do miracles. Sometimes it does require, some work on your end. But if you are looking on improving your credit, definitely connect with me. I did, Olivia, on the chat, I did add the Business Resource Center. It's a flyer that shares the QR code that gives you access to that Business Resource Center, but it also provides me your information. So if you wanted to connect with me so I can connect you to resources like Operation Hope, please go ahead and register on there, and it automatically gets sent to my database where I can connect with you directly. And then I will also include my cell phone number. So if you're a business owner and if you find that easier to just connect with me via text or a phone call, please do so. And we do have a few questions on the chat that I wanted to go ahead and address. So
All right.
Eddie, I don't know if maybe you can help me with the first one and I'll take the second, but Jose Peña asked, what is the best practice as business owners if my lender of business loan doesn't report to my business credit?
So what's the best practice as a business owner if my lender of business loan doesn't report on the business credit? I mean, I think, I think it's I think actually both of them are kind of tied together. But, I think it's super important for you to establish, business credit on the business level, right? I think as you continue to grow, right, it'll get to a certain point where, there's a lot more emphasis placed on the business as opposed to you as an individual. So, I mean, I guess what I would say is look for the one product that's a really easy to actually help you establish business credit is actually a business credit card, That's probably one of the simplest products, right? So if you don't have, if you currently don't have business credit, and I think that's kind of the next question as well, is, I would highly encourage you to separate that from a personal credit card. A lot of folks use their personal credit card for business expenses. And I think that's a good way to, number one, keep things separate, because it's a nightmare for your bookkeeper at the end of the year to figure out what are personal and business expenses, number one. And then secondly, I think it's a great way to establish business credit as well, right? Because we will look at that, right? I think if, as you're looking for a business line of credit or a business loan, we will see that you have some type of business credit established, right? Maybe you don't have suppliers that report. By the way, when you work with suppliers, I think Elizabeth talked about that earlier, that's all self-reported. So the suppliers will actually let DMV know, that there's an issue with the payment or how you're tracking the payment, right? But I think at the end of the day, I think a quick and easy one is to look at a business credit card.
And there is another question. Oh, I think you answered it. If you're a sole proprietor and have sales
Yeah, that kind of
less than
related.
50,000, yeah.
Unless you want to add anything, Elizabeth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wanted to add, it doesn't matter how large or small your sales are as a business owner. Like Eddie mentioned, the simplest way is getting, that business credit card established. Even if you're a startup business, we will take into account your personal credit when applying you for a business credit card. But that is always what we recommend business owners do, is start with that business credit. That way you start reporting something on the business side.
And I have one last question, I promise. So if US Bank can't fund a loan for whatever reason, do you provide them with access to Accessity as the CDFI who can maybe provide them with the funding that's required or that they're seeking?
Yeah, so we have a great tools. Yes, we personally work with different CDFIs, right? So my job as a business access advisor, and Eddie's role as well, even though he specializes on the lending for US Bank, our roles at US Bank is to ensure that we are providing our business owners or even our personal clients with additional resources. We don't just say, sorry, you didn't get approved, now go figure it out. Absolutely not. Our model is to ensure that we get you connected with the resources that may be able to lend to you. So we have a great tool that we utilize called Connect to Capital. It's simply a database where we input your information and the system does it for us, where they'll identify based on the type of industry you are in, what CDFI in your area, because it does have to be a CDFI that caters to your county, is the best fit for you. I've worked very closely with Francisco at Accessity. So if I, sit down with you as a business owner and I think you're a good fit for Francisco, then I'll go ahead and make that introduction. But there are tons of CDFI lenders out there that we work with. I think, I see Ampac Business Capital was on our call today. They're also one that we work with. So there are many out there that we can connect you with. It just really depends on what type of industry you are in and what kind of lending you are seeking.
Thank you. Well, I think I want to thank you, all three of you, for joining us this morning. Seems like we have a couple questions coming in. FYI, Experian Business will allow credit boost if you pay business utilities from a business account and create self-reported trade lines, especially lease payments for commercial space.
Great tip. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And I think that is it for now.